Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode. On today's small business news, whether you want to call it a tip or news or whatever, we are talking about productivity. Production is something that I believe is not something you really think about, not something you really focus on until you're more of a mature business leader or business owner. At least for me, growing up, I didn't ever really think about how productive I was being throughout the day. I thought about, the amount of time I needed to be there and things like that. And at some point, when you stop reacting to your business, you start trying to be proactive and think ahead and to schedule things. And I think that comes with not only a level of maturity, but that comes with a level of busyness of people wanting to get a hold of you. So whether that's where your business is at a point where people want to talk to you now, or customers want to talk to you now, or employees want to talk to you, whatever it might be, that at some point you start having issues with being productive in a sense of trying to get more out of your day. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and this comes from an article from Small Biz Trends titled 10 Ways You're Sabotaging Your Own Productivity. And the 10 ways that he talks about, the first two kind of correlate with themselves. So as an introduction, he talks about how this is something that you need to work on with eliminating things that are constantly taking from you. So he says in his introduction on this paragraph, be sure these productivity tips are often effective, but what if I told you you're actively sabotaging your own productivity daily without even knowing it? Before dumping your time and energy into new tactics to improve your productivity, try to look for the ways you're killing your productivity from the start. And from the start, he talks about the idea of hours. So number one says you're trying to work more, not less. And then number two says you're giving yourself too much time. And so if you are going to start being more productive throughout your workday, at its most basic form, I use Apple Calendars and Google Calendars. They will talk to themselves if you link them back and forth. So if I add something to Google Calendar or get an invite from someone, or if I add something on Apple Calendar through my computer or whatever it might be, they will speak to each other. So I use the calendars, and that's all I use to schedule anything. And I think before you focus on scheduling something, maybe think about the fact that when you're scheduling things, to not give yourself too much time in certain things. If you schedule a meeting for an hour that only needs to be 15 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever time constraint you put on these things is probably what you're going to allow yourself. Parkinson's law is simple. He says on number 2, it claims that the amount of time it takes to do something increases to fill whatever time you have allocated to it. And I found that so much to be true that sometimes I'll be done, really with talking in 10 minutes, and then I'll have another 15 minutes scheduled, and it's kind of like, so what else is up? You just continue on talking. He goes on. Kind of the next thing that he talks about is you're working through your breaks and vacations. He talks about the importance of letting your mind rest through a break, a lunch break, or a 10 or 15-minute break throughout the day. And I think that is something that I go back and forth on through different times. Sometimes I'm like, there is no time for a break, and then other times, I try to include those in 10-minute breaks or whatever it might be. But that is something that I think is individual in and of itself. Different people perform differently throughout their day. The next one is, he talks about number 4, you're booking meetings throughout the day. He talks about that most meetings are productivity killers. They are conversations that are unfocused. They're unfocused discussions, and bloated attendance rosters take hours away from everyone in the room. If your schedule is loaded with meetings, that damage gets multiplied. Personally, what I try to do is get my media stuff, my video stuff, my marketing stuff. I try to knock that stuff out first thing in the morning, so that way I know that I'm going to do it. I try to knock one-on-one sales out next after that. And so whether that's like walking around the racetrack or cold calling a farm or setting up a meeting with the farm that I need to text or whatever, I do that next. And then after that, I try to do book work, computer work type of stuff. And then last, if I need to have a conversation with somebody or talk to somebody, I try to put that later in the day. Usually it works better for everyone, but usually I have phone calls and stuff like that in the mornings. And if I'm missing phone calls while I'm trying to talk to someone, it really bothers me. Next, number 5 is you're ignoring your physical needs. Talks about how, if you're tired, you're hungry, you're not in good shape, those things can kill your productivity as well. Number 6, letting notifications dominate your life. That is something that I struggle a lot with, especially with trying to do so much advertising and marketing, stuff like that on social media. I am constantly getting, messages or notifications or text messages or calls or whatever it might be. And also we're in retail, so we are in a reaction-based business. So we are reacting to customers coming in. So it seems like that is something that I struggle with the most is reacting to certain situations, and that is something I'm trying to work on, whether it's putting my phone, if you slide up on iPhones, there's a little moon sign there, and that little moon sign will put your phone on Do Not Disturb. I use that throughout the day. Do Not Disturb will make all calls, all text messages just be completely silent. You won't even see them pop up. And then if you have somebody in your favorites contacts, so like I have my mom, dad, my wife, store managers, stuff like that in my favorites contacts, if somebody from your favorites contacts tries to text you or call you, it will actually notify you. So that's how I do a lot of my notifications throughout the day if I need to think whether I'm reconciling or whatever it might be. Number 7 talks about multitasking. Multitasking is obviously, if you've done any sort of, trying to raise your production throughout the day, you know that multitasking is probably detrimental to your productivity. That is what a lot of people will call switch tasking. You're not actually multitasking. You're just bouncing back and forth between two tasks, and that is a certain way to kill your productivity. Number 8 talks about you're doing everything yourself. Talks about the importance of delegating. It's not something I struggle with. I can't really relate too much to that. I know that a lot of people do struggle with delegation, but I don't have much to say on that. Number 9 is you're not measuring your performance. What does productive mean to you? What do you consider a productive day versus an unproductive one? How would you know if your new productivity strategy was really working? If you're not measuring your performance with time tracking software or something similar, you're entirely in the dark and you have little chance of actually improving. All goals, if you want to be more productive, if you want to do anything, whether it's, raise sales or whatever it might be, if you are not measuring them, if you're not measuring, what you were doing and your improvement on that certain thing that you want to improve on, there's no way if you're being more productive or not. So if that's something that's important to you, I don't necessarily measure my productivity throughout the day, but when I schedule my day, I schedule it, per minute, per hour, whatever it might be. That is something that I know if I got everything done on my calendar for that day, I'm very happy. But I don't have any sort of, way that I measure that. And then finally, it goes on to say you're stuck in your ways. Change is your friend. Everyone works a little differently, so the best strategies for you probably aren't the same ones as other people you know. I couldn't agree with that more. Some people are more reliant on other, social situations. They're people pleasers. They are, it matters to them if somebody asks them to do something. Other people are, objective or objective based, where they need to get something done, and if they have it on their calendar, that really works for them. There's a lot of different ways that people are motivated to do things, and you have to figure out what works best for you. So none of these things are necessarily blanket statements for everybody involved, but they are some things that have worked well for me in the past, and obviously also for Small Biz Trends. Thank you for watching this episode.